What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay, a stormy Green Bay, Wisconsin this evening. Thoughts and prayers go out to everybody staying safe if you're traveling home from the old job, getting off a little later or whatever you got going on. I'm sure, like we had talked about, Tim, we'll get that weather out of there as quick as it arrives, man. Looks like it's going to move out pretty fast, I believe.
Yeah, hopefully. We needed some rain, though. It's been a while. Haven't had rain for a few weeks up here, so we'll probably get it all in a couple hours, and then it'll blow out of here. So all good. Hopefully, I don't lose connection tonight. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah. If you do, no big deal, man. You just make sure you're hunkered down over there. Protect the memorabilia first and foremost.
Hey, we're all good, man. I got it.
They're in the basement, right where they need to be, right?
Yes,
so you're good. All right, we'll have Emilio joining us here in a second. Hopefully, he'll have a shirt on when he gets online here. So, but let's jump into the Patreon questions. Waste no time here. Is that a wolf shirt? What is on this shirt? Should I even ask? Hold up, I probably shouldn't ask.
It's a cat riding a motorcycle.
My man, my dad would be so proud of you right now. I'm just telling you.
Tell me about it.
All right, let's get into the Patreon questions, guys. Let's see here. The first one, Papa Smurf said, could you take a look at the other schedules in the NFC North? The Lions schedule looks brutal. Now, obviously, we probably want to do a whole episode dedicated to this, but I want to honor the questions here in the Patreon group. By the way, if you want to join our Patreon group, go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access or scan the QR code in the upper right. If you want to support the show, that's the best way to do it. Get some extra content, get your questions read over the air. We're also going to be doing a Dontavion Wicks autographed jersey giveaway for everybody who's in the chat, or I'm sorry, in the Patreon group, at least a $3 tier and above. We will put everybody's name on a wheel, spin that sucker, and give away an autographed Dontavion Wicks jersey. We don't have a date yet. It should be coming up here within the next week, though. So, but with that being said, Papa Smurf, that question, I love the question. We won't have time to put, a crazy amount of focus on it tonight, but let's just take a quick gander at it. I'll try to read it off to you guys. Let's start with the Lions, which is the one he specifically mentioned. Let's see how brutal the schedule looks like for the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to try to be able to see here whether they are on the road or at home. And shout out to Nerding on NFL, who does an excellent job. It looks like they also shouted out at Ozzy NFL on X, helping put this together. So here's the Detroit Lions schedule. At Green Bay versus Chicago, at Baltimore versus Cleveland, at Cincinnati, at Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. Then they got their bye week. Then it's Minnesota at home, on the road to Washington, on the road to Philly.
Yeah.
That's looking pretty rough, man. At home against the Giants, back at home against the Green Bay Packers, back at home against Dallas. On the road with the LA Rams. I don't think the LA Rams are going to be a pushover this year, man. I don't. Matt Stafford and Tay Wicks with Puka Nacua. I like how that team sits, to be honest with you. Then you got Pittsburgh at home, back on the road against Minnesota, and in the season on the road at Chicago. That looks like a pretty tough schedule, Tim.
I went over just doing a little prep before we jumped on, and I've got Detroit with the toughest schedule in our division. Just one quick glance over, looking at Minnesota, Chicago, and of course, our schedule as well. I feel like Detroit might have the toughest schedule. They got the better bye week, I think. Week 8 bye is pretty good, much better than ours. But yeah, I think the Lions got a pretty tough schedule ahead of them this year. What do you think?
Emilio, what are you seeing here, brother? In terms of Detroit, it's probably hard for you to see. I don't know. You might be right up next to the screen, but what do you think about Detroit's schedule here, man?
Yeah, no, it's obviously we got to get through the division. We didn't do well this year or this past year. Detroit was crushing the division. You get a couple of them early out of the way. I think that they're by in the middle of the season. All right, that's kind of what you're looking for. Was listening to that Ross Tucker with the schedule maker on there, the VP of schedule making or whatever, and he even mentioned, like, in the first 2 minutes, like, hey, a Packers Cowboys game is going to be big, Detroit and Green Bay on Thanksgiving, like things like that. Those are national games that you can get your eyes on. I do think Detroit might have a pretty decent schedule, just with all of it being split up, and they really don't have to, they're not international traveling or anything like that. I think they got a pretty good gig.
Yeah, and on the road to Baltimore, that's going to be a tough game week 3. right? On the road to Cincy, you never know with Joe Burrow, especially with the team completely healthy at the moment, right? That seems to be they get banged up by the end of the season, but both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins out there, you'd think they should be able to put up some points on the board to run with Detroit there at home. And then you got on the road at Kansas City. We know how that goes with Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Tampa Bay at home will not be a pushover, man. You know, I mean that's going to be a tough game there as well. As I believe they got Igbuka, if I remember correctly. So that offense will be potent there with Baker Mayfield, I'm sure. Minnesota at home, I feel pretty good. The Detroit Lions could take care of that. On the road to Washington, that could be tough. Washington's one of those teams that. Yeah, I don't really know how it's going to play out, man. They could pick up where they left off last year, and they could take a step back. Now the teams have kind of got a beat on them, you know.
Right.
On the road in Philly, Super Bowl champs, that's a tough game. Dallas at home, you'd think the Lions could take care of business there, but Dallas, I really like what they did this offseason as well. And like I said, on the road against the LA Rams, yeah, it's pretty tough, man. I don't see it being a 14-win team this year. I'll say that. So –
right. They got a very nice layout is what I was getting at. Like their layout super nice by in the middle. They don't have any internationals. You know, they're spread out on their TV times, but they have a tough schedule. I mean, I think anybody in the North has a tough schedule because we got to go through the NFC East this year and obviously everybody in the division.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. So let's just take a quick glance here at Chicago's. They are at home with Minnesota, on the road to Detroit, at home against Dallas, on the road to Vegas. Then their bye week. Then they're on the road to Washington, New Orleans at home, on the road against Baltimore, on the road against Cincinnati, New York Giants at home, on the road to Minnesota. They got Pittsburgh at home. That'll help a little bit, but they are on the road with Philadelphia as well. And then, of course, at Green Bay, at Lambeau. Then Cleveland at home, Green Bay back at home, at San Francisco, and then Detroit at home. It does feel like the Lions have a tougher schedule than the Bears, as silly as that sounds. I don't really know what teams they may play that the other doesn't because they're not playing the Rams. That's probably one that's kind of sticking out to me.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not saying that Chicago's going to win as many or more games than Detroit. Please don't, misunderstand me. I'm just simply saying – it does look like Detroit's schedule is tougher than Chicago's. When you look at Minnesota, at Chicago, Atlanta at home, Cincinnati at home, at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland, then they got their bye. Philly at home, that'll help them a little bit there, not having to go to Philly to play that game. On the road with the Chargers, on the road against Detroit, then they got Baltimore at home as well. Chicago at home, then back on the road against Green Bay, at Seattle, Washington at home, at Dallas, at the Giants, Detroit at home, and then Green Bay at home as the Minnesota. But it feels like the Vikings, out of those three teams, the other three teams in the North other than the Packers, it feels like the Vikings have the easier schedule. Then it's Chicago and then Detroit, in my opinion.
Yeah, other than obviously the insane, crazy back-to-back international games that the Vikings.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
somehow,
glossed over that.
Somehow ended up with that. I'm assuming they're just in Europe, the last couple weeks of September into the first week of October. So that's have we seen that before? Have we seen a team with back-to-back international?
When I was listening to that Ross Tucker pod, the VP guy said that yes, the Jaguars technically have back-to-back games, but they stayed in London the whole time. They stayed in Hot Springs the whole time. This is the first time that anyone's going to be in two different countries playing two away games back-to-back. But he said that when he was making the call, he got the schedule kind of lined up. He made the call, and then he realized that, okay, well, we're trying to figure out which teams might want to play international and going through that whole process. He calls Minnesota and says, hey, Pittsburgh's on the schedule. You potentially could have an away game. They're playing international. And then he said he hung up that call. Then a little bit later on, a couple days later, he called him again. Hey, Cleveland's supposed to have an international game too. What about that? And then they got talking, and he said they went from, not sure to, okay, we could probably do that to, yeah, no, they're I guess they're kind of excited about it. You might have an upper hand there, having them, have to come across and already being changed to the time change. And again, two places, Pittsburgh and Cleveland, that you could have had to play late in the season. in the cold, and you get 2 neutral site games out of that. You literally thinned out half of your away games with neutral site international games.
That's true.
That's a great point. All right, so there you go. Just a little glance into the NFC North schedule for the 2025 NFL season here. We covered the Packers pretty extensively last night. If you guys haven't seen that, we've got it uploaded from last night, whether it's in podcast form or here on YouTube. You can go back and watch our reaction to that, where we just did a way too early season prediction of how many wins the Packers may have. All right, let's move on to the next question here. I want to hit on Greg Rice's first, and then we'll come back to Chris Ian. Greg Rice said, I'd love to see an in-depth review of our D-line and O-line in the Philly game. The plays where Jordan was under pressure and when Hurts had all day would interest me the most. Yeah, that would take a little time to do some digging and putting that together, Greg. But on the surface, I'll say this. Philly had arguably the best defensive line in the league last year. And I feel like we did a decent job of keeping Saquon Barkley in check. It kind of felt like the game plan was geared around that. Now, when you key in on taking away the run that heavy, that's going to open things up in the passing game. That's why I feel like he had so much time to throw there. So if you pin your ears back and go after him, then you don't keep your gap integrity in the run defense game, and Saquon Barkley hits you for, 250 yards, and it's a ball game. So I'm not saying I was satisfied with the performance the Packers had in that game, but on the surface, you can kind of understand the game plan going in, and it's obvious that the Packers wanted to go into this year and go, hey, let's beef up the offensive line. You signed a new starting left guard, assuming he's going to play left guard in Aaron Banks. Then you go out in the second round, you get Anthony Belton. You're looking to kick Elgton Jenkins over to center, which we're going to talk about that here in a second. So it kind of feels like they were like, hey, you know what? We need to get prepared, as Tauscher says, to play some bully ball this year. So now let's move on to the next question. Unless you guys got something to add to that. Are y'all good on that topic there? You good? All right.
Yeah. Travis Clover. Is that the one we're talking about?
It's all good. Yeah, we're going to move on to Zach Tom. I just want to make sure y'all didn't have anything to add. It's all good.
Oh, I was just saying we could get into the weeds on that for sure.
Big time, right?
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be sleeping in a doghouse tonight if I spent 3 hours deep diving that, breaking down the tape and all that good stuff. But thank you for that suggestion there, Greg. All right, let's move on now to – this is going to lead into our one of the topics tonight. And shout out to Chris Ian. He says, what are the chances Goot doesn't want to extend Tom? And that's why he has Morgan and Belton. They never pay more than 3 guys, and they already have Banks and Jenkins paid. They end up paying Sheed instead of Tom because it's maybe $5 million less per season. Or Goot ends up paying another high-price guard and starts Morgan and Belton at tackles because it's now an emphasis on the power run game with Jacobs and interior 3. Thoughts? I think that's very well constructed there, Chris. I think you've thought it through. I think that's an option. If it's me, if you're asking what do I think Goody does, I think Goody wants most, if not all, these guys back for the right price, and we know he's not going to get them for the right price, not all of them. So that's where you got to kind of pick and choose, and that's where it goes into our topic here this evening. And let's just dive right into it here, boys. Thanks for everybody with the Patreon questions. Let's start with Elgton Jenkins here, okay? And Elgton Jenkins' conversation is going to lead into the Zach Tom conversation, okay? So you guys kind of hang with me here a second. As we now have confirmation through Jason Wilde, who said his source, and he feels really good about his source. He did not say this, so please don't misquote me here. I'm not trying to misquote him. I think his source is Elgton Jenkins. We know Wilde exchanges phone numbers with players on the team. So I think this whole time, when he first mentioned this, and if you guys watch Wilde and Tausch, they had several viewers in the YouTube chat that just, tried to dunk on him and say he's just making up drama. This whole time, I think that if it's not Elgton Jenkins, it's somebody really, really close to him in his camp. That's my guess, okay? So let's just kind of dive into the whole situation here, all right? Elgton Jenkins seeks contract adjustment amid move to center, skips Packers offseason workouts, all right? So like Wilde said, this has nothing to do with the position change. He's okay with that. We heard Adam Stenovich also say the conversations they had, he was totally good with that. This is more about how his current contract sits. All right. And I'm just going to dive into the article here a little bit. And this is a shorter article with a lot of screen grabs that we'll kind of explain as we go. Green Bay Packers two-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman Elgton Jenkins has been absent from the team's voluntary offseason workouts, according to ESPN NFL reporter Rob Demovsky, which when Rob put that out, I immediately thought Wildy first reported this, and then Wildy quote tweeted it. You guys know he and Rob are pretty close, so both working for ESPN. Jenkins' absence stems from his desire for a contract restructuring to better reflect his upcoming transition to the center position full-time, a move prompted by the Packers' recent signing of free agent Aaron Banks to a 4-year, $77 million deal to play left guard, Jenkins' previous position. All right, we're going to get into all the cap numbers. I just wanted a quick little refresh here. This is what Elgton Jenkins' PFF grades have been throughout his entire career, okay? And you guys tell me, like, I know Ryan has been pretty vocal about this, that Elgton hasn't been as good of a player as he showed with his ceiling here lately, and I have to agree with it. I think he's a good to very good offensive lineman, don't get me wrong. But PFF grades, 69.2, 67.7. He peaked in 2021 where he jumps to an 82.1. I believe that was an all-pro year. And then 2022, he falls back to a 72.3. 2023, he falls back even further to a 65.4. And then last year, he kind of stabilized, increasing just a touch at 66.1. Now, the key grades here, obviously, is the pass block grades that we know Goody absolutely loves, right? Pass block grades the last 2 years, 83.1 and 81.3. So that's been his strength. Now, when you move to center, theoretically speaking, it's easier to play center than it is guard in terms of, from a physical standpoint. I think Elgton could probably play that up to 32 or 33 years old. The question is our boy Leo DiCaprio Gutekunst going to want to keep him around that long, right? So PFF grades, does that catch you guys off guard? Is that kind of what you expected? I want to get your all's take on that first.
I mean, I'm sure we'd love 21 and 22 Elgton back again, but like you said, he's getting a little older. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff by any means.
Right.
Still a hell of a lineman. Arguably like you said, other than Zach Tom, probably our best O-lineman on the team. But I guarantee you Goody's having those thoughts. If we extend him, how long? And, how much are we willing to really, pay the man, I guess. And I think it's true that, moving from left guard to center is not an issue. That's not,
right,
the determining factor for Elgton. But I do think he wants to get paid, and I think he wants some security beyond, 30 years old in Green Bay. So I don't know. Time will tell, right? I mean, what do you think, Excelio?
Absolutely. I think J. Cole, exactly where I was going. Consistency is key. That's how that's how you determine how great you are in the NFL. Obviously, everyone has the skill to get there. Greatness comes from how consistent you can be week in, week out. And then again, you look at his pass blocking, it's only gone up besides 22, a little hiccup there, but he's getting better each year. I mean, he's still on the up and up. He played center at Mississippi State, right? So he knows what he's doing there. He's been there before. He gets it all. He gets all of it. And like we always talk about, he's pretty much a team guy. So it sucks that we're going through this, contract, whatever it is. But everyone else is getting paid. You brought in a guy from another team, one of our rivals, and you can't give me a little bit more. I get what he's trying, I get what he's saying, or he just wants to lock it in. If I'm really going to move position and hold this line down, let's make it worth it a little bit.
Yeah. Pack Fan Iowa says he will be better at center, easier position, but he's worth another 2 or 3 years. And when you say easier position, it's not that it's overall easy. Physically, yes, because most of the time you're going to be in 11 personnel, and guys like to run those split fronts, right? They like to, and it kind of puts the center out there by himself where he can just kind of help with a double team block most of the time if they're only rushing forward. Now, obviously, you got to pick up the twists, the stunts, and all that. But the big thing is what makes it so valuable, and in my opinion, it's way more valuable than guard, although salary cap ramifications would suggest otherwise. Me personally, it's about being able to lead that offensive line, get you into the right protection, identifying the mock, helping the quarterback take that off his plate to a certain extent. You're the quarterback of the offensive line being right there in the center. I think that's where Elgton will absolutely thrive for sure. Greg Rice says, why do you think many players dislike PFF? I always crack up at this, Greg. And again, you guys know how I feel about PFF. I don't think it's the gospel, right? I think it's another tool we can use. But tell me when you've heard a player complain about their PFF grade being too high. You see what I'm saying? Like the only time they complain is when it's low. So take that for there you go. Take that for what it's worth. That's just kind of how I see it for sure. All right, moving along, the article says Demoski reports that Jenkins, who signed a 4-year, $68 million extension in December of 22, is not opposed to playing center but seeks financial stability for the switch. The current contract, with an average annual value of $17 million, positions Jenkins among the highest paid centers in the NFL, but its structure was designed for him to remain a guard or potentially move to tackle, not center. With base salaries of $11.7 million in 2025 and $18.5 million in 26, none guaranteed, Jenkins is looking to secure his future earnings given the positional change. So here is what the issue is more about. And I apologize if you guys can't read this, but I'm just going to kind of lay it out for you here. This year, Elgton Jenkins' cap hit is $17.6 million. There is $9.6 million in dead cap attached. What that means is if they were to cut him outright this year, they would free up $8 million in cap space. Okay. Now, post June 1, you can kind of flip that and maneuver a little bit, but just let's pretend as if he wasn't on the roster pre June 1, which is right around the corner. That's how much cap space you would save. His cap hit being at 17.6, although it's high amongst centers, and we'll talk about where, well, you can actually see this graphic right here where he falls. That would make him, and again, cap hit wise, this is average annual value that I've got pulled here. So you can kind of, you can make the numbers say whatever you want them to say, but average annual value gives you kind of the entirety of the contract, and then the cap hit is, of course, how the money is allocated throughout the cap. So with him, being at a $17.6 million cap hit, he's going to be somewhere in the top 5, maybe top 6 of centers, highest paid centers in the league. Now, back to his contract up here. With this 2026 number, right, his cap number jumps to $24.8 million. People hear that and go, what are we doing, right? Well, again, just like the article said, it was geared toward he may end up playing tackle, right? Well, now he's going towards center, which typically make less money than guards, to the best of my understanding, depending on whether you're looking at the guarantee, the overall, however you want to look at it. They didn't plan on him playing at $24.8 million, right? They either planned on he's going to be 31 years old, we move on, or we're going to restructure that and try to free up a little cap space and bring that number down. So his dead cap attached is only $4.8 million. So what that tells you is you can free up a little less than $20 million, actually it's a little over $20 million in caps, right at $20 million in cap space. Let's just make it a round number. If you cut him outright. Elgton sees that, guys, and he knows 31 years old, if he gets cut and hits the free agent market, he ain't sniffing that amount of money.
Right.
So what he's doing is saying, hey, how about a little more guaranteed money?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what this is about. It has nothing to do about moving to center. And early on when we're reporting on it and kind of reading the tea leaves, we're trying to find out, does he not want to play center? Is it about his contract? What could it possibly be? That's what this is about. I want to get your all's take so far, and I'll give you what I think the solution is to this issue, and obviously wanting to get him into the offseason program. But we'll start with you this time, Emilio. What do you think, man, about everything we covered there? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think now is his time. If he didn't do it now, next year he'd be in a real world of trouble. Obviously, he had more signing bonus back in 22. The $5,000 when his base salary was down. I think that they could maybe talk to him. Hey, we'll give you a little bit more on signing bonus. Maybe bring that base down a little bit and give you a couple more years. We want you to stay. I wouldn't be mad at having him and Jordan Love for the next 3-4 years there. But that means you got to set up the contract for add on another 4 or 5 years with, void year maybe at the end, figure out how you want to spread that out and how long are we going to keep him after 30. So I think that's kind of really the hiccup. But right now is his time. If he were to hold out, right now is the time to do it so that he can get paid and then just move ahead and just play football.
Yeah,
I agree. And then you see what he's due in 2026. And then just looking down the list here, you see, Creed Humphrey, Cam Jurgens. I think Big E is probably worth north of 17.5, 18 plus per year. But how do you get that number down, in relation to your cap hit? going beyond, again, like Emilio said, well past 30 years old. Again, not a huge deal, especially for a center. We've seen guys play that position, pretty long into their career, and Elton's just getting started here. So that's what's kind of interesting, making this move this late in his career. So could he play another, 3 to 5 more seasons as a center? I think so. The question is, how do we pay him and Zach Tom?
Yeah, to me that number is 3, Tim. I think he could probably play to 33 or 34 just based off of the recent history. People like Jason Kelce, guys like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's going to be a Jason Kelce level center. Don't get me wrong, but the numbers would suggest he should be one of, if not the best centers in the game, right?
Yep.
So Emilio kind of alluded to it, and this is how I see it. What I would do to fix this problem is I would go to Elton and say, all right, man, here's the deal, big dog. You are due $18.5 million in base salary next year. How much guaranteed money are you thinking here? And let's say he comes up and goes, hey, can we convert $5 million of that? And if that's the case, you know what I would do? So if you convert $5 million of that into signing bonus and tack on 2 voidable years and just spread it out 2.5 for 27 and 28, that reduces that cap hit significantly. I would actually go a step further. I'd go, how about this? How about we give you $7 million fully guaranteed, and then you take $2 million extra off the base salary? Because the reality is the Packers are not in a great cap situation next year as it sits right now. As you can see the cap rankings, this is for 2026, and this is going to change. This is going to shuffle as contracts get reworked and all that. But as it sits right now, the Packers are 26th in the NFL next year in cap space at only $1.6 million. So this makes sense for the Packers to want to restructure to free up cap space for next year, right, and lower that overall cap number. And it also makes sense for Elton Jenkins to want a little bit of guaranteed money, a little bit of security to know he's not just going to get cut outright next year and free up. Now, I will say this: another option, as we'll probably talk about here in a minute with the article. Matter of fact, let's just move through it right here. With the Packers being low on cap space for the 2026 season, the answer to the Elton Jenkins issue for both parties would be to guarantee a decent portion of his remaining contract. It would provide the security that he's seeking, per Jason Wilde's source, like we talked about, right? While also allowing the Packers to lower the cap number for 26 by adding void years to the backside of the existing contract. However, it does not mean that Brian Gutekunst wants to go that route, seeing he could free up significant $20 million in cap space for 2026 by simply releasing him after this season.
All right.
It just so happens that is very close to the fair market average annual value of right tackle Zach Tom, who's going to be looking to get a new deal as well. So let's say Goody approaches it that way and says, you know what? We're going to move Zach Tom to center. We'll just cut Elton. If you're going to play, bub, you're going to play under the contract you got, right? Next year, you cut him outright. You free up $20 million in cap space. You kick Zach Tom to center. You got Anthony Belton competing with Jordan Morgan at right tackle. Maybe you do extend Rasheed Walker, or maybe you just move on from Rasheed Walker, and now you've got Jordan Morgan left tackle, Anthony Belton right tackle, and you kind of press forward like that. That doesn't fix the problem, in my opinion, that we ran into in Philly last year, Tim, right? Like we were talking about lack of offensive line depth. You go sign Jordan, or you go sign Aaron Banks, and you add a couple draft picks to kind of shore up that offensive line, and then you completely tear it down less than 1 year later. I don't know. I don't know which way this is going to go. I do think Zach Tom is going to be here for a long time, at least the next 3 to 5 years.
I agree. I think that's the priority, and then we got to deal with Big E, and then we got to make a decision with Sheed Walker as well. We got to decide what we're going to do with his contract pretty soon. So I don't know, man. I would not want these guys' jobs, man. This is just it's too tough to try and the math ain't mathin', as they say. And it's been said it's tough to you can't pay everybody, and it is a business at the end of the day. And guys are going to want to get their money, and sometimes it doesn't work out. I think if you can keep the old 2 out of 3 ain't bad mentality, keep some pillars, and then keep plugging and playing with draft picks and free agency moves to keep that line strong. But it's going to be tough to get everyone paid.
It is, man. Emilio, what do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, after bringing in Banks and paying him, and then bringing in Belton from the draft, I think that Goody was just looking ahead. I mean, imagine if he didn't bring in a an offensive lineman from the draft and bring in the dude in free agency. Elton goes here, hey, you want me to move to center? I want my money. Then you don't have anybody else you can fall back on. You don't have, that extra pick there. You got Jordan Morgan coming up, but you're running out of spots. And we ran into the problem of depth. So I do think that, right now we're in a good spot. I'm glad Goody did pull the trigger on all this. I'm glad that, he wanted to beef up that offensive line. It's just, I hope for Elton's sake, he kind of squares this away and just move on. Just right. Because I really don't let's figure out what kind of money is going to make it happen. And let's get through this because our window's here, Elton. We really don't want you to go anywhere. You're not going to get the same anywhere else. And let's make it work.
Yeah. Eldergrim in the chat says, does void years not impact cap for those future years? How much cap have we lost in dead cap this year? I don't know what the dead cap attached this year is, but yes, that would count toward the future cap. So in the scenario I laid out where you kick out $5 million, what it would mean is an extra $2.5 million in cap, in a cap charge for what would be 2027 and then 2028 without Elton Jenkins on the roster. That's just a very minute example of how you push that cap out if you need to go that route. Now, here's the other thing worth mentioning. Another player we've talked about a lot is Kenny Clark, right? Kenny Clark's cap charge, if I remember correctly, jumps to $30 million next year. There's no way he's going to be playing for $30 million next year. So they could cut him outright or ask him to take a pay cut / restructure to free up space there as well. So even though we're just showing $1.6 million here, that's why I was talking about you can get that cap number back under control real quick. We're just simply talking about Elton Jenkins and what applies at the moment and whether or not, how much guaranteed money is he wanting. Now, listen, I know there's some people that make the argument that, hey, bub, you're already one of the highest paid centers, right? Here's the issue. It has nothing to do with that average annual value or that cap hit. What it has to do with is the guaranteed money and security from his standpoint. That's what he's looking at, okay? So that's kind of how I'm seeing all that unfold at the moment. All right, it says, I think we already hit that, yeah. Here's the other thing. There's people that are probably hearing my voice, and listen, I try to respect all fans. Everybody's got to right the fan how they want to fan it. I know a good chunk of the fan base, well, you got a contract, you need to honor it, right? Well, he's already one of the highest paid centers, and they tend to always side with the team, right? Mm-hmm. And listen, I do too. Mm-hmm. I love Elton Jenkins. I love Jordan Love. I loved Aaron Rodgers. I love Brett Favre when he played. The fact is, when he's not a Green Bay Packer, I give a rat's ass about him. That's just being honest, right? And if that makes me a bad person, so be it. But you'll also notice if you watch this show or listen to the show on the pod on a regular basis, I tend to lean toward the player's side too. Like, hey, I understand where they're coming from. You got to get your money. Let me give you an example here, okay? In other news, Sean Ryan recently missed out on a $2 million bonus. Listen to this. Last year, he missed out on a $2 million bonus, falling only 2 snaps short of an accelerator in his contract, showcasing the cold, hard nature of the business in the NFL. That's what Rob Demovsky reported. Earlier this offseason, Ken Ingalls pointed out that Sean Ryan apparently missed out on his PPE salary bump, finally figured out why. 2 measly snaps. It cost him millions. Now, go back to the Romeo Doubs situation this past year, right? What did he say? I need to take care of my family. I need, right? He's on that. Listen, it's probably more money than most people who hear my voice make in a year. Don't get me wrong. Some people are out there working blue collar jobs going, boy, I'd like to be making $800,000 or $3 million or $2 million, right? But the reality is he's seen them in practice, not in games at that point necessarily. It later trickled into the games, but he's seen in practice them putting an emphasis on Tavion Wicks. Why? Because Dontavion Wicks has one more extra year on his contract and will be cheaper for them to keep rather than extend Romeo Doubs. In this case with Sean Ryan, what did we see last year? They started rotating him and Jordan Morgan. Now we know why, right? And again, I'm not saying the team is evil for doing that. That's a part of the contract. But I also, the players, the former players, current players that look at that and go, boy, that's some dirty pool. I completely understand that as well. You know what I'm saying, guys? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I don't think that's a practice exclusive to the Packers. I think it's done league-wide pretty much. No. I remember seeing a highlight with Gronk needed a catch or something late in the game in Tampa, and convinced Tommy Brady to can a play and throw a slant so he could get his $1 million bonus in garbage time. So hey, I get it, and like you said at the top, Clayton, the fan in you wants to support your team because you're a fan of the team first. But you got to understand, man, these guys have a very short window to make their money. These contracts aren't guaranteed. Your career is not guaranteed. At any day, it could be over with for all you know. So I don't fault these players for wanting to get their money at all.
Yeah, and Prince says not like he was benched or anything to cut his snaps, but they rotated him with Jordan Morgan. Like, I don't.
And they could do that under the guise of trying to get a rookie acclimated to our offense, right? They don't have to say that it's about Sean Ryan's bonus.
and here's the other aspect to it too. Maybe what makes this look so bad is 2 snaps, right? Let's be real. That's what makes it look so bad.
Right.
However, they didn't plan on Jordan Morgan getting hurt, so they probably planned on playing Jordan Morgan a little bit more. Therefore, he may have come 50 snaps short or 80 snaps short. That looks a lot better than 2 snaps. That looks ugly. And I love my Green Bay Packers, but you look at that and go, boy, oh boy, that looks ugly. So somebody else said something here too I thought was a great point. Drew said also, I think we would have eaten the $2 million if Ryan could be trusted in pass protection, right? Like, it's not like they were like, this was the plan all along, right, Drew? But I'm just saying that's a hell of a coincidence to get within 2 snaps and up. Sorry, didn't hit it.
Yeah, someone nudged him. Whoa! We need a quick sub. A quick sub. Get Travis Glover in there ASAP.
And here's the other thing too. It was I think on Wildy and Tausch they were talking about this. If it doesn't leave me here, it's been a long day. They were also what was it? It's gone. I had it. It tried to hang on, and it's gone. It was hanging on by a thread back here. There was a comment they made about this, and I'm trying to think of what it was, and it was very it was interesting. I just love hearing him, Tauscher and Bulaga talk about this stuff because it's so weird. I want to say it's weird, but it's so enlightening, I guess you could say, because people who don't know, Bulaga replaced Tauscher. So Bulaga comes in, Tauscher's battling injuries. Bulaga takes his job and basically ends Tauscher's career. So that's the fact that they're on a show together and they're giving their insight. And there's obviously no ill feelings there, right? No ill will toward each other. It's just interesting to hear 2 offensive linemen that kind of overlap for the Green Bay Packers talk about this. Oh, I know what it was now. It came back. See, I filibustered long enough to get it back. And now I'll forget it again. No, but he said what it was Tauscher said, but Jason, they can give him that, or no, Jason said, no, they can't just give him that money under the CBA. And Tauscher went, but Jason, they can restructure his contract. They could do that. They could say, hey, you know what? Let's restructure it and give him $2 million. They could do that. The fact that they don't, again, I don't want to try to shine negative light on the Packers saying that's a bad thing to do. I understand why they don't. That $2 million could come in handy on down the road, right? And it's not my $2 million. It's funny how we always, whether it's a player or an organization, we're always willing to spend somebody else's money, right?
Right.
But anyway, I thought that was a really, really interesting detail there, just to kind of outline both angles. The Packers have expressed confidence in Jenkins' versatility, with general manager Brian Gutekunst stating, quote, "We feel like he's got a chance to be an all-pro center," noting Jenkins' experience playing all 5 offensive line positions since being drafted in the second round of 2019. Offensive coordinator Adam Stenavich also told Demoski that Jenkins appeared, quote, "open to and excited about the move based on prior conversations," though he acknowledged Jenkins' absence was due to, quote, "other reasons unrelated to reluctance about the position switch." And I will say this, Wildy also hinted at he has no problem with moving to center. He actually wanted to play there last year. And again, if his source is who I'm guessing it is, that was Elton saying, I was open to it last year, but obviously Goody wanted to try to – I say Goody, LaFleur as well, wanted to try to make Josh Myers work, right? So it is what it is there. And then as we kind of wrap up here, Jenkins' absence has already cost him $500,000 workout bonus, as he's missed enough of the offseason program to be ineligible for Demoski. Despite this, the Packers remain optimistic about Jenkins' potential impact at center, particularly for their run-heavy offense, which ranked 5th in rushing last season. The addition of Banks and running back Josh Jacobs is expected to further bolster this focus. Jenkins, who could not be reached for comment, has a history of durability and leadership on the Packers offensive line, though he has faced injuries, including a torn ACL in 2021 and a sprained MCL in 23, as reported by Demovsky. As negotiations continue, his absence underscores the business side of the NFL, with Jenkins aiming to protect his financial future amid a significant role change. So I thought it was kind of important to dive into that. Now we got the whole story. We got sources attached now. We know, all right, this has nothing to do about the position change. It's all business, Tim. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm Elgton Jenkins, and this is the only hand I have to play, I will sit out all of training camp. Because guess what? To the best of my knowledge, he's already missed the $500,000 bonus, right? There is no penalty until week 1 of the season. I don't want him to sit out that long, but he has the leverage to do that. Now, Goody also has the ability to be able to free up cap space and go get your ass out of here, right? That could happen too. So
I would think they'd want to get this figured out though before it stretches into camp, because either way we've got a new center this year, and it's important to get those reps right away with the first team offense, really first and second team offense, getting to know who their starting center is going to be when we start camp. So I got full faith in the front office. They'll figure this out, but they got their work cut out for them for sure.
And Emilio, it's just such a missed opportunity if we can't maximize and capitalize on Elgton Jenkins playing center. I think our offensive line is so much better with him. It's just like the Jair situation, right? For the right number, for the right adjustment, I want him back. With Elgton, it's like this offensive line has a chance to do something special if he's a center. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. And we need help on the offensive line a little bit, right? We were unhappy with Josh Myers' performance. We need a guy that we can count on, that Jordan Love has a little bit of, reputation with, little repertoire. I think that's something that really could take this offense to the next level. And just having somebody consistent in there. He was always there. I mean, the only time he got hurt was the Philly game, and that's when we fell apart. But then Goody, refilled it with a little bit more depth. You get Morgan coming back. You brought Belton in. You have to keep churning it out. And I'm happy that, Elton's trying to get his money. I'm happy that Goody tried to prepare for something like this at the same time, because it's a business for the Packers and the players need money, because that's their livelihood. That's their job. So I think that we can make it fair for each of them.
Yeah. And we got us a Lions fan in the chat, and we'll just say this real quick.
Sit your butt outside.
All right. Hey, you take care, sir. We'll see you on the other side, all right? There you go. We should have just ended the hour 1 like that. That's the way to do it. I wish you'd have seen that, Tim. Damn it. I kicked him out too early. That would have been beautiful. Like, hey, quick question. What's your kicker doing here, bub? Why does he look like he's making love to the turf? You know what I mean?
Typical classless Detroit Lions fans, right? jumping into a rival's podcast to say, "Go Lions, you bums."
I have no Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in.
See you September 7th, buddy.
But I have a banner.
Right. All right. That's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome in hour 2. Let's talk a little Zach Tom now, and how it kind of this whole Elgton Jenkins conversation goes pretty much hand in hand with him. And let's just talk about, we already talked about he could potentially move to center, right? If this whole thing fell through, Emilio and Tim, if Elgton isn't on the roster next year, my go-to play will be get Zach Tom to center and find the best two, whether it's Jordan Morgan or Anthony Belton, whoever wins that job at right tackle, they're your right tackle, and just move forward, right? I'd much rather have Zach Tom at right tackle, Elgton Jenkins at center, and you've got that depth we needed in the Philly game. But here is the situation with Zach Tom. Let's just talk market value real quick, all right? Brian Gutekunst hit a home run when he selected Zach Tom in the 4th round, 140th overall of the 2022 draft. Tom has done nothing but improve since day 1. And now it's time to pay up. Below are Zach Tom's career PFF grades along with his market value breakdown according to SpotTrack. So let's talk about PFF here, guys. 2022, 68.3. When you guys hear me say if a rookie grades out in the 60s, I feel good about it, this is what I'm talking about. If they come out and they hold their own, they're grading in the 60s their rookie year, you're going to see them take a step and take another step. We've seen it time and time again, right? 2023 jumps to a 79.7, and last year an 85.8 PFF grade.
He can block.
6'4", 304 is what he's listed at. Some say he's actually 6'3", so he's a little bit smaller size, which would make him a little better fit for center, to be honest with you. But I will say this, man. I'm all about paying Zach Tom. Now, what's the market value, right? But I just want to ask you guys real quick, PFF grades, and again, it's not everything, but when you turn on the tape, this dude, he knows how to play offensive line. He's known since day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, versatile, right? Could play anywhere in a pinch. But, you know, the more we keep having this conversation about center, I feel for Jordan Love. And I would like to see him, you know, get somebody consistent that he can build that rapport with. You know, Favre had Frank Winters. You know, Aaron had a couple of favorites throughout his career. You know, if Jordan's going to be here for the long haul, it'd be nice to, at least for the next, 1 to 3 seasons here, get some consistency and go try and run at a Lombardi here. But Zach Tom is one of those pieces that I think you got to prioritize here when it comes to the contract, because he's just simply the most valuable O-lineman that we have on this team. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, Emilio, he needs to be one of those 3 that we talked about, right? That if you're going to pay 3, he's got to be one of those.
I was just going to say, if you're going to pay 3, it's got to be Zach Tom. It's got to be Elton. And right now it's Banks. I think that we can get away from Banks quickly if we know who our next guy that we're going to pay is. If you get at the end of the year, and it might be Rashid, hey, all right, we can't afford Rashid, but maybe we can get a comp pick out of him. The next guy in line we're ready to pay. Is it Morgan? Is it Belton? Somewhat, does Travis Glover fly up the ranks and get a spot? Hey, I don't know, but you have to pay those players that keep you going. On, I think it was the PFF pod or the Athletic pod. They were saying, they don't love Zach Tom they said they love Zach Tom as a blocker against everybody except like the best players. They said that maybe he gets beat around the edge sometimes against the best, and that's where he kind of gets gets hung up. But for our sake, we need Zach Tom. We need him to hold down that side. Jordan feels comfortable because he knows, in his face, he doesn't have to worry about really anyone, collapsing that pocket. And, we should be more worried about his blind side.
Yeah. And it looks like everybody in the chat pretty much agrees. I don't see anybody saying, no, we shouldn't re-sign Zach Tom, right? So here is the calculated market value. And we'll talk about how we got to this number according to Spot Track. Okay, $21.7 million average annual value. You guys remember what we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. The number, if you cut Elton next year, is right around this exact number. It's just like he moves out, Zach Tom replaces him. You got the other young offensive linemen hopefully taking their rightful place, like Emilio was saying. Maybe they can step in for Sheed, or maybe Sheed's the guy you pay. Within 2 years, definitely 3, you can move on from Aaron Banks. You can just tell the writing's on the wall. Aaron Banks is going to be having the same conversation we've been talking about with Elton Jenkins in 2 years, right? He's going to be looking up going, hey, can I get some more guaranteed money? Mm-hmm. And Goop might just move on. So $21.7 million. Here's how we got to that point. Comparable players, all right? We've selected the following players based on their age, contract status, and statistical production to compare Zach Tom to. Penei Sewell, 4 years, $112 million. All right, he was 23 years old when he signed. His average salary, $28 million. Jonah Williams, 2-year contract, worth $30 million, average salary of $15 million. He's 26 years old. Spencer Brown, 4 years, $72 million. Jawan Taylor, 4 years, $80 million. All right. So if you take all 4 of those closest comps, according to Spot Track, and you average that out, here are the averages. 4 years, $73.5 million with $20.2 million on average salary. And the age when signed was 25 years old. Now, let's talk about how that compares to Zach Tom. Okay. If you go to game play percentage, Penei Sewell has played 100% of the games. So is Jonah Williams. Spencer Brown's only played 93%. I say only sarcastically. It's pretty damn reliable, right? And then Jawan Taylor's played 100%. So that averages out at 98.4% of the snaps they've played, okay? When you break them all down from quarterback hurries allowed per game, they average out to 1.35 hurries per game allowed. Quarterback sacks allowed per game, they average out to a 0.33. sacks per game, giving them a rating of 66.15. Now let's go to Zach Tom. Zach Tom's game play percentage, 97%. That's going to net him minus 1.45 in percentage change, okay, compared to the average of the 4 comp players. Quarterback hurries allowed, His is 1.41, slightly higher than the average, which is going to drop the value down minus 4.44. Okay. Then you go on to quarterback sacks allowed. He had 0.15. The percentage change is a positive 54.55%. So he's been damn good in sacks allowed in terms of that. And then his rating is going to be an 82.7 compared to the 66.15 of the other four players, netting him a positive game of 25.02. So when you look at the median prime percentage change for Zach Tom, it's 11.79%, an average prime percentage change of 18.42%. That's where you come up with the calculated market value for Zach Tom at 4 years, $86.7 million, or an average salary of $21.6. You can get that average down if you guarantee more money with signing bonus, or you can raise that number up if you come in with less guaranteed money. The player's going to want as much guaranteed money as possible. So I'm going to get your all's thoughts on that. I feel like that's a really, really fair comp. When anytime Penei Sewell is mentioned in the comp, I don't feel like he's getting lowballed at all. And the numbers are the freaking numbers. 21.6 million. I think that's a great average number, Tim, for Zach Tom, and I really do.
We had to start talking Penei Sewell as soon as the Lions fan got booted, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way it works, man. I don't make the rules.
But no, I agree. I think it's a good comp, and pay the man his monies. Back up the Brinks truck, cut the check, do what you got to do. Pay it to him in gold bullion, whatever it is. Pay the man, keep him here.
Yeah, and Emilio Eldergrim says, I bet he gets $25 million a year. I would not doubt that. I could see that happening, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because, I mean, a guy like that, you're going to want to keep him happy. You know, it's one of those in Madden, Clay, where you mess up the first time, and then you got to go, whoops, I got to give him a little bit more money to make him happy and stay. So
hope you didn't piss him off, too.
Yeah, and I mean, they're normal human beings, right? If you drag his name, if you don't treat him right, they're not going to be happy with it. I think we've been talking for a long time that Zach Tom needs the bag, and it's going to be over 20. It's going to be lower than 30, ideally. And then if we can get him for an extended period of time, all the better. But it's I think those are pretty fair comps for him.
Definitely. All right, and we already kind of talked about the cap space issue. All right, and moving along here, another offensive tackle due for a big payday is Rashawn Slater, $25.5 million average annual value. Bernhard Raymond, $20.6 million average annual value, and Colton Miller, $19.7. So when you look at the free agents coming up here, I mentioned this because it's a race, guys. The one who gets the deal done first probably going to pay. I don't want to say it'd be less overall, but it'd be less of the percentage you would have to pay. Meaning, you notice most of these guys weren't. I don't think any of those guys were on the comps because they're all up for a contract. As soon as let's say Rashawn Slater gets paid first, now Zach Tom's number just went up. That's right. What we dealt with Jordan Love, right? Yep. Jared Goff got paid before him. The number went up. If we just got the deal done a little sooner, you could have saved a little more money, right? It's like that credit card. Pay that sucker off. The longer you wait, it's just going to keep on compounding. That's the way it works. So on this list, you've got Rashawn Slater, you've got Zach Tom, Bernhard Raymond, Colton Miller, Luke Godecki, Taylor Moulton, Braxton Jones, Rob Havenstein, Braden Smith, and Jack Conklin. So you got a flurry of guys that are looking to get paid here. Get it done, man.
Yeah, and a flurry of guys that may or may not get paid and maybe on the move, so you could see some shuffling. I hope Zach Tom's not one of them. I hope they get this done and get it done quick. I would think that would be the priority, right? We get that deal done. Now we figure out what we can do, with Big E, Rasheed Walker, and start kind of moving down the line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that hopefully Goody doesn't let it fall to, hey, we were behind the 8 ball again on this. Let's just get him paid up. Let's get it squared away. But yeah, once Elton gets paid, then Zach Tom's going to want the money. It's just, I am happy though that he's spread it out. We're not 15% on the cap besides maybe Jordan, and everyone's all right taking the equal pay. We're not over here just throwing money around. You get 30, you get 30. We have to be conscientious of that.
Yeah, Daryl in the chat says Jordan Love had to wait a while. It's true. And Adam Block says sometimes the agent wants to wait, though. Yeah. I think so. It's like it's hurry up and wait, right, Adam? Like you want to get them to the negotiating table, wait out a couple deals, and then hammer it, right? That's kind of how it works. So
That being
It's-
said, I think Zach Tom is weighted though. I think it's time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen enough, man. I think he's worth 21 million per. And here's what's crazy is like that first year cap probably going to be somewhere in the 15 to 18 million dollar cap hit range, and then it'll probably raise to the 21 to 22, the way Goody typically does the contracts. And then by year 3, the majority of the guaranteed money's gone, and you got yourself in a position where you can restructure or potentially cut ties, which I don't see him wanting to cut ties with Zach Tom. I just don't. I think he's a hell of a football player.
No.
So, and when you look at the PFF grades here among some of the players we just mentioned, like Rashawn Slater at 90.9, right? Jordan Mailata for the Philadelphia Eagles was top graded tackle in the game last year at 95.2. Then you got Rashawn Slater at 90.9, Penei Sewell 89.6, Terran Armstead 89.4, Lane Johnson 88.9, and then you got our very own Zach Tom coming in the number 6 spot at 85.8.
Love it.
So,
edging out Trent Williams there. That's awesome. I mean, that's a who's who of O-line talent right there.
It really is, man. It really is. I remember Charles Cross the year he came out too. I remember putting a draft board together, and Charles Cross was one of my top tackles. That's blast from the past. Look at Clay Matthews' cousin still playing, Jake Matthews down there.
Yep.
79.8 with Atlanta. Feels like he's been in the league for 30 years too. So, all right, that's it. Anything else you guys want to add to the Zach Tom conversation here? What do you think?
No, we just got to open up the checkbook, get these boys paid so we can get them on the field. Seriously.
Yep.
Completely agree. All right, so there's just a little Zach Tom fair market value breakdown.
Last thing, if we're a draft and develop team, shouldn't we be happy that we're paying them? You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because if we weren't, we'd be cutting these guys loose and letting them walk, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like the Giants. Let's draft McKinney. Let's let him get real good, and then when he turns 24, he's too old. 25, get him out of here.
Yep.
Yep.
And there is a portion of the fan base that when you cut a player, oh man, we can't draft worth of crap. And then when you re-sign them, you overpaid. It's like, well, I don't know what you're expecting. Like you're not happy if they get cut. You're not happy if they get re-signed. That's the nature of the business for sure. So, all right, let's move along to a little Jayden Reed talk. That sound good, fellas?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you guys know some stink got raised earlier this week. And you guys can check all this out. You can go back, read it, dive into some of the screen grabs we got here. Just go to our Patreon community, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. It's the best way to support the show here. A tweet went out from Adam Schefter that was so obvious it came from Jayden Reed's new agent, Drew Rosenhaus, which, by the way, Emilio, me no lucky that Drew Rosenhaus is representing Javon Bullard and Jayden Reed, but we seen them in the restaurant that night, right? They sat at the table next to us, Drew Rosenhaus and Javon. Drew Rosenhaus comes in and sits down with a gentleman we didn't recognize, and then Bullard walks in, and I go, "This mother." Stay away. I wanted to go over and go, Drew, stay away from him.
Yeah,
stay away from him, because Drew, he's a super agent. It is what it is, right?
We've been down that road with
yeah.
him and Aaron back in the day. Yeah.
So here we go. Jayden Reed, concerns or non-story. All right. Last week, a tweet was posted from Adam Schefter that caused a little bit of a stir. So here was the original tweet. Packers GM Brian Gutekunst met last week with Jayden Reed's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, to clarify the wide receiver status in Green Bay after the team drafted Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. The team said it will not affect Reed's status as its top receiver per source. That source, of course, was our boy Drew Rosenhaus. It's pretty darn obvious. So when Adam Schefter tweets, right, where's it coming from? Adam Schefter does not work for the National Football League, okay? He works for ESPN. Now, ESPN has a partnership with the NFL. ESPN isn't going to do anything crazy dramatic to make the NFL look bad because they like that partnership they've had for so long. When Ian Rappaport tweets, he works for NFL Network. Guess who he works for? All 31 owners plus now Ed Policy, right? That's who writes his checks, is the NFL who owns the NFL Network. So when Adam Schefter tweets something out, not that Ian doesn't ever tweet anything out from the agents, it's going to be most likely coming more from the agent side than the owners, if that makes sense. So this came from the agent. What were they trying to accomplish, right? And I asked myself that earlier. I kind of played devil's advocate, Tim, and I said, listen, there's nothing wrong with Jayden Reed going to the team and going, hey, man, I'm still your dude, right? Like I want to be a part of. What I took that as, if that came from Jayden Reed himself, I want the ball.
Yeah.
That ain't a bad thing. That's hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to work my butt off. I want the football. I want to be the dude in Green Bay. I think that's a very, very, very good thing. Some fans seen it as a very, very negative thing, and I just didn't understand that. Now, as we move along, former All-Pro Green Bay Packer David Bakhtiari chimes in on what this tweet means. I thought this was glorious right here.
Oh, yeah, this was perfect breakdown here from Bach.
So Bach sitting at home with that knee elevated, just watching the drama unfold. Here's what he says: my interpretation from this: player is disgruntled based off draft and previous season number of targets, rightfully so. This is a business. EOD 11 is a stud. All right, talking about Jayden Reed's a stud. We are paid off performance. Hard to negotiate when you don't have numbers to compare. Flashy agent wants to retain and continue earning players business/respect, says he will talk to the GM and reassure all this is brownie points, is basically what he's saying. Forced the call with Goody. Goody says whatever the agent player wants to hear. Happy player equals good for business. Agent reports back to player, stuck his neck out for him, quote, technically he did. Player's happy for now. Agent texts reporter with large following/relationship to push his narrative to reinforce narrative to the player. Uses this for recruiting down the road as an agent that goes above and beyond. Means nothing at the EOD. In scene. It seems pretty accurate, right? I would push back a little bit and go, I think it's more Drew Rosenhaus.
I do too.
Jayden Reed being like overly negative, and Bach wasn't saying he was negative. He's put some shine on Reed's name there, obviously. What's your take on it, Tim? I thought it was pretty creative from Bach here, though, man.
I agree, and I like Bakhtiari's breakdown. I think it's probably 99.9% accurate, and I'm with you. I don't think this is on Bird. I think this is his representation, just angling and due diligence by an agent basically, and that's what those guys get those big percentages for, and they make the big bucks. That's what they do. So. And I think it's a credit to Bird, too, for kind of staying out of it. You know what I mean? Like, let the agent do what the agent does. You focus on ball. It doesn't matter, how many draft picks come in or how many UDFAs get signed. I mean, we're going to have a, merry-go-round of receivers rotating through training camp by the time we get to, July and August. So, I don't know. I think I'm not going to say a nothing burger, but I fully anticipate that Jayden Reed is fully focused. And he is going to be a premier target in this offense this year.
Yeah, B-Time10 in the chat says, I heard that Jayden Reed just got a new agent. That's why. That's basically what Bach's saying here, right? Is like, that's the agent running a little victory lap. Hey, I called him. I'm on it. I'm on the job.
Bump up the chest real quick. I got to
I just want you to know that I know that you know.
Right. And then I will say this too, Amelia. I want to get your take here on Gene, Gabe, and Chewy. Adam Schefter looked very aggravated that this got so much blowback. He's like, this wasn't a big deal. It's like, Bub, you're the one who tweeted it out. Now listen, own it. Okay, we know how this game's played. We're all mature here. Let's don't back up now and pretend like we're a victim. All right. You got your tweet out there, you got your interaction. The agent got to stick his chest out. Now let the fans complain about it. That's the way this thing operates every single year.
You wanted the interaction, you say something like that, you'll get interaction. That's exactly what happened. And I think David was talking the truth there. I mean, he's a player. He's been through it. You can kind of see it. You want you're like, hey, I'm going to protect you. Dude needs to go out there and kind of do something to say that I'm protecting you. That now that your new agent. But I would more like it. Hey, I'm already talking to Goody about your second contract. You keep this up, man. We're going to be cruising here. I got you lined up X, Y, and Z. Everything doesn't need to be front and center.
Yep. B-Time10 says that's what I was thinking. He was acting like someone else tweeted. It was really weird watching him get upset. And everybody kind of got uncomfortable on the show, too, because Chewy went in pretty hard the day before on Jayden Reed, which that's Chewy. That's what Chewy does. Chewy, I've noticed that a lot. It's like he forgot what it was like to be a player. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. The guys who played in the 90s, they act like, just get out there and play the damn game. Quit complaining. These guys are babied. If they were playing today, Chewy would be doing the same exact thing. Let's be honest about this, right? So it is what it is. All right, moving along here, Rob Demovsky. This is what I wanted to point out because, again, Jayden Reed took a little negative pub with this, right? I think we would all agree. Some of the fans were like, "Who's he think he is?" Go out. I couldn't tell you how many tweets I've seen that said, "Stop dropping the damn ball." right? Just people being, what they do on Twitter, social media.
You know how it goes.
So Rob Domofsky tweeted this out from the pressers from the position coaches yesterday, right? Packers passing game coordinator Jason Vrabel said Jayden Reed is up to 199 pounds from 185 when he got here as a rookie. So he's thick, Tim. He's thickening it up a little bit, man. Said, and has been one of the leaders of the wide receiver group this offseason. Now, again, Elton isn't there for contractual reasons. He's trying to get a little bit better deal, right? A little bit more guaranteed money. Jayden Reed's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that, Vrabel pointed out that Reed has been, quote, helping Matthew Golden with every single play. Someone said that he is standing behind him on every play, kind of coaching him through this process. Because as we pointed out before, Matthew Golden is going to play a lot of moving Z most likely. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Jayden Reed plays. Mostly slot, but that moving Z, they may line up outside and up in the slot. They may line up in the slot, cheat outside and end up in the Z. They're going to be very interchangeable. I think that's what Matt LaFleur sees within this offense. As someone had mentioned here earlier, if I can find it right here, Matthew Hansen, who do y'all want as wide receiver one by the end of the year? Nobody. Yep. Nobody. I don't want there to be a receiver like, all right, the offense runs through him. I don't. You want to be as unpredictable as possible in this type. Like Puka Nacua has emerged as the number one receiver in LA, right? It was Cooper Kupp forever. How did Puka Nacua become that? Mm-hmm. Injuries with Cooper, yeah, but now that they started to zero in on Cooper Kupp, start funneling the ball to Puka, they can't cover both of them. Well, guess what? Cooper Kupp's now gone. He goes to Seattle, if I remember correctly. But who'd they bring in? Devontae Adams.
Yep.
You don't want a number one, in my opinion. This isn't a shot at you, Matthew. I just hear the sports talk hosts, and they talk like this is still 1997. We need a Randy Moss. Just chuck it up into double coverage. That's not how Matt LaFleur's offense works, right? So
this receiving is tough.
It is. I want to be as unpredictable as possible. I want as many capable receivers on the team as possible. So when you run that dagger concept, no matter if the defense shades over the top to take the go route out of the two away, then you hammer the dig on the backside. Well, guess what? If they're playing inside leverage and they've got help over the top to take away the whole dagger concept, then you got the number 3 running a crosser, right? If they play the crosser just right, you got a shallow cross underneath with Tucker Kraft on maybe a delay release.
Yep.
You want to be able to, if they play inside leverage, you want an outside beater. If they play single high safety, you want to be able to attack the sideline deep. If they play two high shell, you want to be able to hit the dig across the middle. All those things come into play schematically. And if you're just keying in on one wide receiver, we're just going to get him the ball. The problem last year is teams started to hammer down on Jayden Reed because no one else stepped up, right? Jayden Reed started off phenomenal start to the season, tapered off down the year. And I keep hearing how he had minimal catches down the stretch, but they conveniently don't mention the targets. His targets went way down because defenses started to really bend the coverage toward him underneath or on these crossers. And that's how you take that guy away. If you've got two solid receivers, not necessarily just one number one receiver, you can prevent that from happening. But
right. Yeah, that's what you want to see, right? Week to week. You're going to have a different marquee type of guy based on your matchup and your game plan and how the game goes. You don't want just one dude, because then teams, you're right, they're going to keyhole that guy and they're just going to scheme against him and take it away from you. And if you don't have that answer, your whole offense is out of whack. It's nice to have that quote unquote number one, but like you said, it's not 1994 anymore. It's a brave new league right now.
That's it.
And I do love Reed putting on 10 pounds. That's awesome. I think that's going to be great for his career, durability wise. I'm sure he's still gonna have the wheels going. I think it's good that he bulked up a little bit. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just another year in the NFL. I do like that. And we're going to ask him to do a lot. We don't really need that number one. We don't really need an inside or outside because the way Matt runs his offense, our condensed sets are basically slot receivers. So, I mean, even if you're the outside even if the outside X or Z, we're in condensed inside the numbers. What's the difference of 4 yards right there? I mean, everyone's just running a route. It's worried more about, are we free releasing? Are we not free releasing? You got, someone over top, all that stuff. I think that coach was talking about it here, said all the wide receivers have to step it up big time this year. I think that's the truth. They really do. And and putting not putting Jordan Love in a spot where he's got to just always hum it. But I think that is kind of Jordan's game, right? He's going to want to press it. He doesn't take a bunch of check downs. So let's work that into, all right, our scramble drill might need to be a little bit better. You kind of want to know where you're looking on this coverage. And to that point, I love that Jayden Reed was behind, Matthew Golden and helping him through it like that.
Yeah.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, because you need, we know we got the run game, right? And we can hit the shot play, right? But you need that intermediate passing attack to really drive your, sustain a drive and continue to move the sticks. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. If you have that true number one receiver, right, and you've got $30 million a year tied up in him,
you're throwing him the ball.
Yeah, and he's one injury away from your offense being flipped completely on its head. And if you do like what Coach Lynn is saying here, all wide receivers have to step up big time this year. If you've got a multitude of receivers stepping up within Matt LaFleur's offense, I'm telling you, slot cross, dagger, and then if you come out in that same trips left look that I just laid out for you, I wish we had the telestrator up. I'd explain exactly what I mean here. With that slot cross dagger combo out of a trips left look with your tight end to the right, essentially what you've got from left to right is dig, go, climb, shallow underneath, block, chip, leak with the running back, right? You can attack pretty much every defense. Now here's the other thing. Inside zone with a strong right look, but trips left out wide, opens up inside zone and duo to beat the band. And on top of that, if you're overloading the defense, if you're forcing the defense to overload on the left with that trip left look, your slip screen out the right side is going to be deadly. And you've also back it back up, trips left look. You can go with an RPO attack with a bubble with the 2 lead blockers. If they start to cheat inside and load the box on Josh Jacobs, now Jordan Love just looks out there and goes 1, 2, 3. We got the hat count. Let's swing that bubble out there, right? And then Emilio will be on the post-game show saying he can block.
Yeah, absolutely can. Just get the ball in their hands. It doesn't matter. Get it out. We'll get it on the outside, push the defense out there. And yeah, I am, like Tim said, I am glad that he bulked up because he did have a couple injuries late in the season there. And maybe we don't need to throw him out there at punt return and just, move on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't wait to see some of them nasty splits too, man. How about a little bunch nasty X?
Dig them out a little bit.
Matthew Golden and Jayden Reed and Wicks.
I'm telling you, man, they're not going to be able to key in on Reed this year. They're not. Yep. If Matthew Golden ends up being a hit, and I think he will, based off what I've seen so far, if he ends up being a hit at wide receiver, they won't be able to key in on Reed. I look forward to the day that you see Matthew Golden or Jayden Reed at boundary X, pop him out the boundary X and let the other one play moving Z or F, and then all of a sudden a little cheat motion, bring him back, and then bring the X on the end around, you're going to see defensive coordinators crap their pants. It just opens up so many things that you can do. Not to mention Tucker Kraft taking another step. But Reed's also been the most productive wide receiver since arriving in 2023. He's led in yardage, right? He's led in touchdowns, all the important statistics, not to mention the running aspect. According to PFF, in 2023, he was a 75.1. This year, he took a slight step back at a 70.4. But again, remember what we talked about? Rookies who grade out in the 60s. His rookie year, 75.1. I expect Reed to be upper 70s, maybe even lower 80s this year, PFF-wise, because with the emergence of Matthew Golden, if he does pan out, if Savion Williams ends up being a hit, if Romeo Doubs is still on the roster somehow, some way playing boundary X, there's a number of different things that could fall into place to allow Jayden Reed to take another step forward. And I just want to point out his run blocking in 2023 of 50.2 jumped to a 61.4 last year. So little guys learning how to block against Matt LaFleur offense. So.
And he's got that dog in him too. He's not afraid to engage. I think it was technique thing, and now he's got a little more weight too. So should be fun to watch, man. Yeah, I agree too with Emilio's point. Get him out of the return unit. Let's just utilize him as that flyer, as that receiver, and call it a day.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Yep. As Coach Lynn says here, the emergence of Golden will only free up Reed more. And like you guys just said, if you can get Savion and Mecole Hardman returning kicks and returning punts, that frees him up from that as well.
Right? Absolutely.
So, telling you, man, I don't know what his over-under numbers will be this year, And the fact that he added a little weight, which should, like Coach Lynn was saying in the chat earlier, will lend a little credence to him staying healthier, probably being able to absorb some of that impact. And Savion taking some of those end arounds away, therefore less hits on Jayden Reed's body. I would expect Jayden Reed to take a little step forward here. If his targets hadn't gone down in the second half of the season, which, by the way, another thing that people try to ignore when they try to bash Jayden Reed is Matt LaFleur mentioned we were trying to take some of those body blows off of him at the end of the year, like not over target him as much because he was getting drilled, you know. So
and we were also, running the damn ball too down the stretch a lot. I mean, targets as a whole are going to be less when you're pounding the run,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With 2 years left on his contract, Jayden Reed has positioned himself for an extension with the Packers. If his play continues to stabilize or even better improves, you can see here this year's cap hit is $1.9 million. Next year will be $2.2 million. Then he will be an unrestricted free agent. Obviously, being a second-round pick, he doesn't get that fifth-year option attached. So all these conversations we're having about Zach Tom this year, we're going to be having them about Jayden Reed next year. So just keep that in mind. So that'll be right around the corner. Anything else you guys want to add to the Jayden Reed talk contractually? I mean, is that not a steal? $1.9 million against the cap. I mean, look what he did his rookie year. $1.3 million. Come on, dude.
It's beautiful. And if he really pops here in year 3, I mean, I think it's a slam dunk. He's gonna get the bag, right? He'll be around. So
absolutely.
Big pivotal season for him this year.
And the fact that still our cap hit of our wide receiver core is under probably 5% total. Like, that's just unbelievable. That is good.
Look at the talent level we have
it gives you outs. Tim, it gives you outs. If we have a problem with Dobbs, okay, all right, we got somebody back there. If you have a problem with Christian, if the knee whatever doesn't heal right back, okay, we've got a secondary plan. You got to have second and third plans ahead of time because at any point another one goes down with an injury. Hey, you're calling up. If the practice squad didn't get, depleted from people picking them off, you're moving guys up. So I'm glad that, we have a nice little nest of wide receivers that we do like, and, someone's going to emerge.
Yep, definitely. Prince in the chat says Hardman for punt return this year and Williams along with him for kick return. Let Reed be a receiver and Nixon be a cornerback. Amen to that, man. Amen. Especially if Jair's not here. If Jair's not here, I don't want to see Nixon returning any damn kicks.
Yeah,
put him at corner, let him focus on that because we're going to need all the help we can get to fill that void if Jair isn't here. I hope he's here, and I'm feeling a lot better about it. I think it's more likely than not he's going to be a Green Bay Packer. I just hope it works out that way. T. Rattler in the chat says Reed had a bad shoulder in the second half. He also had a bad ankle too, right, guys, if I remember correctly? So, yeah. Daryl in the chat, Golden 4.29 speed and Williams' versatility. Damn, going to be awesome to watch them all make plays all over the field. I'm really excited about Savion. Savion's either going to be an absolute monster or he's going to suck. There's not going to be anything in between. I believe that, man. And I'm telling you, the way he carries himself, if he's a hit, it's going to be so much fun rooting for that dude, man. The way he runs with the football and working him out of the backfield too in that pony package is going to be really exciting.
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Coach Lynn, do you want to see Marshawn Lloyd at all on kick return? I want to see the best guy return kicks, whether that's Mecole, Marshawn Lloyd. If it was Jayden Reed, I would say put Jayden Reed back there. I just don't think he's that good at kick return. I don't. I think his true value is receiver and being able to work some of this F motion. That's just me.
And if we do have Ja, to your point, I do think you leave Keyshawn as one of your options.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously if there's no Ja, then you need Key to just be a corner in this defense. So I don't know. I don't know about Marshawn Lloyd at return. I don't
either.
I haven't seen anything. I don't think we've seen enough. I'd like to see Marshawn Lloyd run the ball. I'd like to see him at running back first, but maybe there's some other guys too. I'm not sure about some of our other corners, Kalen King or the kid we just got from Tulane. What's his name? Micah Robinson. So maybe check some of the younger guys, give us some depth there in the kick return department.
Yeah, as J. Cole says here too, I would put Savion Williams on kick returner. Let him compete there too, right? So you're looking at Mecole Hardman, Savion Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, which I remember Marshawn Lloyd us talking last year, Tim, if you'll remember, with the kick return changes and the rule changes, it's like this might be better suited for a running back than a top end cornerback or wide receiver speed, right? Someone who's a little more shifty because it's closer to a running play than a kick return play. Now that might make all the sense in the world again this year. So whatever it takes, man, just get the best guys on the freaking field. That's all I'm worried about. So,
absolutely.
all right, boys, that should do it. I think we covered everything. Is there anything else you guys want to hit on before we wrap up here, man? Anything at all that's on the forefront of your mind? Maybe something I missed today that came across the wire or anything?
No, there's a lot that I have written down that came from an athletic podcast, but we'll get into it tomorrow. But it is about wide receiver and Jordan Love and stuff. So,
oh, little teaser there. I like it. Jacob's a teaser right now. You know what I'm saying? Tim, you got anything else, bub?
No, just taking a little break after tonight's show. I'll be back after Memorial Day. So miss you guys. I'll check in when I can. Just gonna take a little time off, a little digital detox, a little time with the family. So
everybody needs that, man.
Absolutely. But,
I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I love what we do here. I love talking ball with you guys in the chat, but there are some days I'm like, I think I'm overdoing it. Because I mean, you see me, you'll know when Clayton's had enough screen time. My eyes start batting like a crackhead. I'm like, man, it wears you down. So crackhead. Got hold. Hit it, Tim.
I'm gonna have to be on my P's and Q's with the drops, man. If Tim's gone,
you got to, man. You got to. And Jacob will jump in here and try to screw everything up. He'll try to get us canceled like he always
absolutely.
Yeah. Nah, but that's it, guys. We appreciate everybody. If you would hit that like button, feel free to sub to the channel. Channel's doing great. Patreon's doing awesome. Really, really appreciate everybody's support. And we're just getting started. We'll continue to build this thing out the way that you guys and gals want it built out. And it's going to be a fun year, man. I love the fact that we keep pushing Chalk Talks back because we got stuff to talk about. And here we are, May the 15th, man. It's just going to be it's going to be an awesome year, man, for sure. Mandy was looking at the schedule last night. Hell, the way she talks, I'm going to New York, I'm going to Denver, I'm going all over the country to watch Packers play this year. And I said, the only place I want to go is Lambeau Field. I want to sit. Matter of fact, you guys can't see my cursor, but this background right here, if you look right below that flagpole on the right, I want to sit right up there, front row, right on the glass with some cheese curds and an ice cold daddy soda.
Absolutely.
That's all I need. However, Denver, the Packers play in Denver out there in Colorado in December. One of my goals is to have a little Christmas vacation out in Denver, hit like maybe go outside of Denver, hit Aspen or Vail or something like that, spend a couple of days. So we might have to make that happen this year. I might be live from the Mile High City for the Packers.
That would be wild.
It would be fun. I might drag you out there too, Emilio.
Oh, boy.
All right, guys, we appreciate y'all. Everybody have a wonderful evening. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go back.
And we go.
Bye, guys.